Hare Krishna. One of the key concepts of the 3T path I teach is that it's all about your mind. This can be a little hard to accept at first. On one end of the spectrum, we have the crass materialist who thinks his happiness is completely dependent on external factors. That it's all about what I have, who's with me, and what's the status of my life. Wealth, fame, etc. It's all about the external. That's one end of the spectrum. At the other end of the spectrum, if you look into it, if you read the sacred yoga literature, you'll find a description of this yogi who is completely focused in total bliss, who's completely in bliss, despite having all sorts of miseries going on in his life. Despite all sorts of adversities, he's completely blissed out. So those are the two ends of the spectrums. Totally dependent on the external, completely not dependent on the external. It's a long path from one end to the other. The good news, though, is that it's real. And you can experience it very soon, advancement along this path. And this is actually the way to be happy. Because externally, you just don't have control over it. We cannot control the world. You cannot control your destiny. You can't control events of the world. You can't control what other people do. You can't control what other animals and creatures are doing. You can't control nature. It's out of your control. So the more you focus on the external, the more out of control your happiness is going to be. Your happiness, your well-being will not be in your hands. It's going to be out there, beyond your control. Secondly, it turns out, and you may have noticed this already, that these things out here don't actually give you so much satisfaction. Going to the ultimate level of reality, you're actually a soul. You're a spiritual being. And as a spiritual being, matter doesn't matter. Matter has no effect on your soul. Matter, the soul couldn't care less about money and fame. The soul couldn't care less about the size of your house and how great your car is. The soul doesn't care about these things because these things are material. The things that are external are all material. But if you're spiritual, there is no connection. So actually the soul doesn't care about these things. That's why they don't really satisfy you so much. That's why rich countries aren't happier countries. Rich people aren't necessarily happier people. Because these external things actually don't satisfy the real you. And on the other end, the blissed out yogi, he's completely focused on his soul, on spiritual things, on being connected with God, on being himself completely, on being in touch with existence, on just being the here and now. And those things pertain to the soul. Those things actually satisfy the soul. So as you progress from being dependent on the external to being focused on the internal, you go from being a materialist to a spiritualist. You're actually getting closer to reality and the things that actually will make you happier. But it's all about your mind. It's where your mind is. So it doesn't matter what the external world is. It depends how you're dealing with the external world. What's your reaction to reality? So it's actually all in your hands. It's your reaction to reality that will determine the quality of your life, and not reality itself. This is a key point on the path of yoga, key point on the 3T path I teach. So it's a little hard to understand at first, but if you get deeper into it, if you start practicing it, you'll see how real it is. Hare Krishna.